Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Yeah. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail. Hello, boys and girls, theys and thems, kitties of all ages. It is your ever-loving Uncle Fish back again for a new episode of School of Fish, the art stream, coming to you live. Glad to be here. Had a little trouble getting it out to the places that we would normally put it out to, so it's just on YouTube and stuff for right now. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I have been getting a lot of questions lately. A lot of people trying to get those last questions in before TikTok goes away forever. And one of the questions that I got recently that really stood out to me was a follower asking me about inking and asking, when do I know when and where to put thicker lines and thinner lines? And that was something I hadn't really thought about. It just kind of came intuitively to me, and I thought everybody knew how to do it. I thought it was common knowledge, and it's not. If you haven't learned how to do it, you don't know how to do it. So I thought we might take a look at an earlier page from Green Zone that I did, and then I'm going to work on inking a new page from issue 4 of Green Zone, which goes live on February 3rd, 2025 on Crank Stomper at gomrfish.com. You can follow the link right down there. Boop, right there. Take that little link. It'll take you right there to it. You can sign up for the pre-launch page now and be notified when it goes live in February. Anyway, let's turn on Clip Studio. And this is a page from issue 1 of Green Zone. I am a firm believer in, if the inks don't, if you I believe every step of the way you should be, especially if you're working a part of a team, then when you are done with your part of the book should be totally understandable if it was put out right now in just your stuff. So if you're the penciler, your pencils should be clear enough that anybody could look at that page and know what's going on, know where the people are, where they're standing, whose arm is whose. A lot of times when you're in a group scene or something, it can be confusing. Like, is that his arm, or is that Superman's arm or Batman's arm, kind of thing. Um, it should be clear what's going on. Anybody should be able to look at that page and know what's happening in the story. And the same thing with the inks. When you're done with the inks, it should be super clear what's going on. It shouldn't be confusing because of all the cross hatching or textures that you put in. It should be clear where they are, what's going on, who's who, what's happening. If you are depending on the next step in the process to clarify your work, you failed. So if I do lazy pencils and send that on to an inker thinking, the inker will fix it and make it clear, I didn't do a good job as a penciler. If I'm sending my stuff as an inker onto the colorist, I'm like, well, it's kind of muddy and you can't really tell like where they are in relation to the floor, but the colorist will fix it. Then I didn't do my job as an inker. On and on and on. Every step of the way, your work should be able to stand on its own. I'm a big believer in that, which really led me to clarify my inking and not put so much cross hatching and stuff. Like, a lot of people of my generation will fill a page with cross hatching. And a lot of times, if you just look at the black page, especially at any kind of distance, it just becomes a sea of muddy lines and you can't really tell what's going on. And a lot of times now they are relying on the colorist to separate things out, do color holds on some of that line work so it pushes it back some and makes it into textures and not big bold black smears everywhere. um so my art is a lot more simplified because of that. I don't want to put a line in a drawing that's not going to add to the clarity. If it's not going to make it more clear what's going on, like the texture on this back wall, I wanted the wall to be a little bit rough because a lot of rough and tumble guys have been put up here with powers and abilities and different like horns and rock skin and whatnot. I wanted it to have some texture to it. I wanted the floor to have some shine and some reflection to it. So there's a little bit of lines here, but I did not go crazy on it. I put a lot of work into the colors on this, but if we, let's see, come down here to this section. If we turned everything else off and get rid of the color flats and everything, you can still tell what's going on. You can still tell that these guys are standing next to a rough wall. You can still tell that the floor is shiny and polished and reflective. Uh, Without all that extra stuff, you can still tell what's going on. Um, as far as thick and thin lines, I have rules that I go by, but they also can be a little flexible sometimes. I tend to have I tend to go a little bit more towards darker outlines on the outside of a character and lighter lines on the inside, but that not like fairly odd parents type thick lines on the outside, but a little bit thicker on the outside to help them stand out from the backgrounds and lighter lines on the inside, but also at the same time I tend to have lighter lines on top and thicker lines on bottom, lighter lines towards the light source. And the further we get away from the light source or it's casting shadow, the darker those lines get. So, like over here on, around Virgil's waist where these folds are thick and they would be casting a shadow, we've got much thicker lines on them there than we do up here towards the light source. Up here, they're a lot lighter. Um, and they're thicker as they go down because he's further from the light source. So, like underneath the cuffs of his pants, very thick, dark lines. Um, some of these other guys in the background don't have as thick a lines on their stuff, but they're also not as big as him, so their folds aren't causing as much shadow. Lots of things. Also, he's closer to the camera, so the closer I get to the camera, the thicker I tend to make the lines on characters so they're bolder and they stand out. And the further I get away from the camera, the lighter those lines get. So, like, as you go down the line, Virgil and Brooks are very thick lines. And then as it gets further down here, these other characters get thinner and thinner and thinner as it goes because they're getting further away. um, these guys here in the foreground have fairly pronounced lines on them because I wanted them to stand out as being a little bit forward, but also I didn't want them to take the attention away from Virgil. Virgil's one of the heaviest inked things in the page because I really want you looking at him. Uh, Here is a really good example of what I was talking about. It's not always perfect, but like he's got thicker lines on the outside to separate him from what's going on around him so that he stands out, especially because he's in the foreground. These spikes on his arm have much thicker lines on them, especially at the bottom, to show that there's like some shadow to that and there's some weight to it, where the little detail lines up here are a lot lighter. uh, these are two of my favorite scars. This one's a little backwards, but there's a dark shadow up here on the top of this inset scar, uh, to show that it goes in, it's carved into his arm. I really wanted these scars to stand out in different ways and having thick edges on them and stuff. So I tried to put thicker lines here to show the shadows and then a little bit lighter lines on the inside. But I still wanted them rough. I still wanted them significant because he's so far in the foreground. But like where most of the stuff would have lighter lines on top and then thicker lines on bottom for shadows, because this is recessed, that edge would have a shadow on it. So I did it that way. Like the lab coat on the doctor here has much lighter lines up top, and then like under here is dark shadow. Under here is dark shadow. His pants have much thicker lines because they're darker shadows further away from the light source. The inside of his pockets are dark. So while that's on top, that's going into a shadow area. Underneath this cop's arm here, nice dark thick lines, lighter lines on the details up top. Um, it's flexible and it goes with different situations. A lot of times I'm thinking about the light source and how bold I need something to stand out. The one nice thing that I really like about inking in Clip Studio in particularly is I always ink on vector layers. So if I don't like a line thickness, I can always go back and change the thickness of that line later. And that comes in real handy. This is a page of pencils from issue 4 of Green Zone, which will be live on Crank Stomper on February 3rd. Go, MrFish.com. We'll take you right to it. Sign up for the pre launch page now so you don't miss out. Um, but this is from issue 4. I got the lettering turned off so I don't give away too much. Um, this is the pencils. I'm going to lower the opacity on the pencils a little bit so it'll be they won't be quite as distracting. And then the number one thing I do, boys and girls, and if you've followed along with Mr. Fish for very long, if you've ever watched an episode of School of Fish, you probably know that I am going to flip the page. That's right, boys and girls. The answer for what I'm going to do before I ink is flip the page. Why do I do this? Because it makes all those weird little things that we do without thinking about it stand out. Like if anybody's eyes are really off, or their ears are the wrong size, or placed wrong on their head, or maybe the head's just a little bit wonky because I was holding my tablet at a little bit of a weird angle while I was drawing and I didn't notice. Um, Flipping it will make all that stuff stand out. It's I wish I knew the technical name for it. It's a complicated word and I can't seem to get it to stick in my brain, but there's a part of our brain that looks for patterns. We're always looking for patterns. And, it's the part of our brain that wants to see faces in a plate of bacon and eggs, or teddy bears in clouds, or faces in the front end of a car, stuff like that. And it will automatically say, oh, that's a face when we get close enough. And, if it's because our page is slanted, which has always been a problem with me, if my page is slanted at all, or my tablet or whatever, I will end up skewing the drawing so that it looks right to my eye at that angle. It looks like a right head. But then once you stand the tablet up straight or the page up straight or whatever, all of a sudden it's skewed because it's not at that weird angle anymore. Like those weird stretched out drawings they do on the ground, but then when you stand at this one point, it looks like a three-dimensional drawing. It's that kind of skew. But my brain says, "Oh yeah, that looks like a face." And even when I fix it, when I bring it upright, my brain's still like, "Yeah, bacon and eggs, that's close enough. That looks like a face, like the front end of that Honda. Yeah, yeah, that's a face, sure." And when I flip it, all those little mistakes suddenly pop out more. And I cannot recommend enough, seriously, cannot recommend enough mirroring your page, flipping it horizontally so that everything jumps out to you, and l- it makes it a lot easier to fix things. If your character's costumes are asymmetrical, then you need to remember, like, okay, it flipped, so now their badge is on the other side, things like that. You would be surprised how many badges I had to go back and redraw on the first issue of Green Zone because of that. You would think a fishy would learn. I'm going to make a new vector layer so I can change any little details that I want to change. And I'm going to pick another color and make it black because I like all my vector layers, all my inking layers to be black. So it's easy for me to tell them apart from the other layers later on. Um, Now we are going to come up here to panel 1, and we are going to take a look at this. And I don't know, something about this guy is feeling a little off to me. I cannot put my finger on what it is, but something about the pencils has been bugging me. So I'm going to go to free transform and I'm going to bend it a little bit and see if I can hit on something, if I can fix it a little bit to make it look better in my head, or if he just needs to be redrawn. I think that's a little bit better. All right. Go back up on my vector layer. Gonna get my handy dandy inking brush. Oh, I don't remember what brush I've been using. Dang it. Let me pull up another page. See, that's why I don't like working on things in spurts. I would rather just work on one thing all the way through. But you also got to pay the bills. So I got to do client work and pay the bills with that right now. So got to do a little bit of everything. All right, that'd be good enough. Let me look there and see which brush I was using. Do 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 do. It's okay. All right. Yeah, we were. That's the brush I thought I was using. Don't save that. Don't save. You don't want it like that. You don't want them changes. Don't save it cause you'll regret it. There we go. All right. Now we're cooking with the propane and propane accessories. All right. Usually I start with the eyebrows. I don't know why. Can't give you a reason. But here, because he has glasses, I want to get the glasses right first. Speaking of not right. Now, again, like I said, in the inking, I went a thicker line on top and a thinner line on top and a thicker line on the bottom to give a little weight to these glasses. I don't want to go crazy thick because they're just glass. They're like rimless, and I don't want, but I'm going like a little bit thicker on the bottom there. And I can always come back and narrow that line a little bit because it's a vector line. So I can always go back and change it. I can grab this line and move it around. I could rotate it. I could do whatever I want to make it work after the fact. I love being able to work with the vector lines. They ink just like anything else. They ink just like a regular old raster layer. Going a little bit darker there under his eyebrows just to make them feel a little bit bigger and bushier and give a little bit of weight to them. Usually I'm just doing eyebrows in black, but this dude is ginger. Just for some reason I decided to make him ginger. Maybe I don't know, subconsciously I may wanted to make him feel more aloof and the whole soulless bit going around about gingers. I don't know. Maybe I was channeling the redhead doctor that used to be on Chicago Med. I don't know. But a little bit thicker line there because it's on the outside. Whoops, undo that little doodad. And I'm gonna try and go a little bit darker under here. Now this area I want to make a nice darker line there because I want to hint at that nostril. I don't want to have to draw in a hole in his face, but if I just make that line darker there, that gives me the hint of, okay, yeah, there's a nostril there. It just oftentimes just that little bit of change in thickness is all you need. A thicker line indicates that there's a little more shadow there. There's a little more depth there. So, like, I'm doing lighter lines. I'm trying to do lighter lines on the outside of his hair where it's up at the light. But some of these places where the hair might be overlapping and causing a little shadow in there, I try and go a little darker. But I also, part of what makes my stuff feel so alive and energetic is the fact that I work pretty quickly and I don't overly fuss over my lines, which can tend to make stuff feel a lot stiffer. Like, it can look beautifully accurate, but it loses some of that liveliness and movement when it's too stiff. Try and go a little thicker there on the bottom of his, and like I'm gonna make a thicker line in there to hint at the shadow in his ear. Um, make a little bit thicker there to give some depth to the line under his jaw. And he's very dismissive of this character. I'm trying to get the disdain he has for the genomes that he's having to work on in this hospital. And if you've read issue 3 of Green Zone, Corporal Waters was in terrible condition at the end of issue 3, and she's been brought into the hospital, and he's telling them that she's not going to make it. And if she had come in days ago when she should have, when she first got infected, then maybe this wouldn't be so bad. And he's just arrogantly assuming that you know she put this off for a long time. He has no idea really yet that she just got infected that afternoon when she got her hands stuck on Bellamy's quills. But he's just assuming that because the infection's so bad now that she just put it off like any old stubborn genome doesn't want to come into the hospital just because it's going to financially ruin them to do so. Bunch of lazy, no good. He's coming from his place of privilege where he can afford to go to the doctor and not have it, financially ruin him. That's one of my favorite things about getting to work on Green Zone is I get to put all of my issues into it. Now, like this collar here, I'm going to go a little bit thinner on that outside and I'm going to go way thicker on this part because I want to hint at that shadow underneath it. And I'm going to go a little darker there because I want a shadow under that fold, lighter on top, a little darker in that shadow. But I get to put all my issues into Green Zone and all the things that bug me and all the preconceived attitudes people have and the way they treat each other. And it's funny to me because when I talk about Green Zone with anybody at all, they can instantly recognize how unfair the treatment is for the genomes, but you know, never seem to see a correlation to, the way that it could apply to our treatment of insert other group here, whatever that other group may be. And it never ceases to amaze me sometimes how people at a con could hear my pitch for Green Zone and talk about the characters and see how unfair that is, and then turn around and say something to me indicating that they have wildly different views on something equally as oppressive as, oh man, that's a shame, man. They don't even have a chance, man. I wouldn't be able to live like that if it was me. I wouldn't stand for it. I'd have to do something. Like them illegal immigrants coming over the border. I can't just can't stand it. Okay, we're going to talk about oppression and the way people are being mistreated and, don't have a fighting chance. But then you're going to jump right into, you know, ostracizing and everything, uh, a people group that's in the exact same position, never had a fighting chance at a decent life, and we're going to make them the bad guys, just like this guy's going to do. Yeah, okay, you didn't get the point. Yes, this is my comic I'm making, Silver Phantom. This is my book, Green Zone Life in the Blocks. It takes place in a world where anybody could be born a mutant or a genome. Let me turn the colors back on so you can kind of see what's going on here. Whoop, not that one. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Anybody could be born a genome like these guys up here. And if you're a mutant, you automatically lose your rights, you lose your citizenship, you get shoved into the green zones, which are these giant ghettos, and the world forgets about you because you're obviously a supervillain waiting to happen. Nobody that looks as monstrous as Virgil here could possibly be a good person. He's obviously, supervillain waiting to happen. You lose all your rights, you lose your citizenship, and the only way to get out and make a better life for yourself is to prove that you're not a threat to humanity. So the only way you can do that is by serving the greater good for 5 years or more. You can join the military, you could join, the fire department, sanitation. This follows a group of new recruits to the police force as they try and earn their citizenship back in a world that hates them, try to maneuver a corrupt law enforcement system where the humans look at them as mall cops, the other genomes look at them as race traitors. There's a genetic ceiling they're never going to be able to, surpass, and they're never going to be able to work hard enough to get that promotion. Um, it's it's a sucky system, and if they can make it through without accidentally using their powers and going to prison or something and prove that they're not a threat to humanity, they can get their green card and they can move out of the ghettos. We're all descendants of immigrants or slavery. US is based off getting a chance to chase your dreams. Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. It has been and it should be. And I don't think where you're born or what you look like should have anything to do with holding you back. Like, you know, for instance, I'm was born with a neurological disorder, uh, which makes my brain misfire all the time and makes me, make twitch and jerk and make weird sounds and put me in a wheelchair for 15 years. Now I'm finally back to the point where I'm steady enough that I can get some stuff done, but couldn't find anybody willing to hire me. And so I had to start making a living on my own, which happened to be doing comics. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity. But, I don't care for it when people treat me differently or treat me like I'm dangerous just because I'm twitchy or something at Walmart. I used to only go out in town if I was wearing like shirts that explain my condition with some kind of joke so it could defuse the situation and get a lot less ambulances and cops called on me because, somebody thought I was a meth head or something because I was twitching. Uh, when I was stuck in the wheelchair, it was a lot easier because people don't call the cops on a guy in a wheelchair as much, but they will call an ambulance on you in a heartbeat. And but all of my different life lessons and stuff have been combined into Green Zone. And thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm pretty proud of it. This is going to be issue 4 of Green Zone that's coming out. It's going to Kickstarter in February 3rd, as you can see down there. If you go to gomrfish.com, it'll take you to the pre-launch page and you can sign up and keep up with everything that's going on and not miss out on it when it goes live. I'm super excited to finally be getting this issue out. It's been a hot minute, but I've been working on so many other books. I since I started working, since I published my first book 6 years ago, I have done I'm this is the 107th book I've worked on in 6 years. Oh yeah. I spent 15 years in a wheelchair. M- The neurological condition I have, we gonna go big for this. We gonna have a conversation. Me and Silver Phantom here. We gonna have a talk. Let me turn that down for a second. The neurological condition I have, essentially, it's like if your brain's a computer system, the insulation on the wiring is thin, and so it lets a lot of the wires cross communicate, and a lot of signals get crossed. And maybe you were going to try and do this and it makes this arm twitch, or you were going to say this and it comes out as something completely different, or you had a thought that crosses lines and automatically shoots out of your mouth. And mine got so severe to the case that I was constantly shaking and thrashing like I was having seizures all the time. I shook too bad to walk. My legs would jerk and kick too much to let me walk, and I would fall down. A lot of times the signals to my eyes will get messed up and my eyes will clamp shut and I couldn't see for, you know, sometimes days. My jaw will clamp shut and I can't talk, or I'll be yelling out random grunts and sounds. And it's really frustrating. I always explain it this way as a neurological condition and explain what it does to me, because for me, it's had me in a wheelchair or crutches for over a decade. I can't walk without a cane now. I often have trouble not seeing. One of the first things that happens when it gets bad is my jaw locks shut and then I'm trying to grunt through my teeth. um I say it that way because if I say I have Tourette syndrome, people automatically shut down. They say, "Oh, I know what that is. I saw Deuce Bigelow. I saw Tourette's guy on YouTube," and they shut down and they quit listening. And they think, "Okay, I know what that is," and then they don't listen any further. So I like to explain it the way I do because Tourette's is not what people think it is. Yes, some of us with Tourette syndrome have a subcondition tick that does make us yell out swear words and stuff, but it could be anything inappropriate. Like when I yell out hot potato or yellow rubber tugboat or something stupid, that is also corporalia because it's inappropriate. It's not the words that you're supposed to say right then. But that's not all it is. That's like saying, "Oh, I know what cancer is. That's the disease that makes your hair fall out." Like, well, no, cancer is an overgrowth of cells. Like some treatments will make your hair fall out. No, 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 no. My mom had cancer. Her hair fell out. I know what cancer is. Well, like, yeah, that's part of it, but that's not all of it. Like for decades, my worst ticks were things like holding my breath and stuttering and uh, you know tugging on my clothes and all kinds of weird little things that you wouldn't notice until it got way more severe as I got older. And I'm one of the lucky people that just continues to get worse as they get older instead of getting a little bit better. I've been very lucky over the last few years that I had a lot of stress removed from my life, a lot of anxiety removed from my life, which made life easier. I have learned how to surf the waves of Tourette syndrome better than surfing with it rather than just standing in the ocean trying to fight against the waves because you're going to lose that fight every time. And I've had advice from a lot of people that have been through it that could give me advice on things that would help, things that make it easier. I've learned how to get enough sleep and enough rest and enough food and all of these things that I wasn't getting for a long time. And with the right medications and treatments and things, it's gotten to the point now that I can work again. I can do some stuff. I couldn't work full time, bagging groceries at, the grocery store, but I can sit in my recliner all day and draw pictures. And so this is how I make my living now. And for 6 years, it's been quite the blessed living. Like I said, I've worked on 107 books now in the last 6 years. And it's crazy to me. It just blows my mind that I've worked on that many. I wasn't sure I would ever get a job. And then I got so many so quickly that couldn't do I couldn't do the next issue of the book that I was wanting to do for myself. This is one of my favorite characters from Green Zone. This is Officer Bellamy. It's her first day on the shift too. And Bellamy is covered in razor sharp quills all over her body. So if she were to bump into you on the subway, she could potentially go to prison for the rest of her life for unlawful use of supernatural force because it's not legal to use your powers that you were born with, even if that is you were covered in razor sharp quills and you can't do anything about that and somebody bumped into you, you could still go to prison. So she's got a tough go. Yeah, I'm I was very lucky before it got that severe. I was very lucky when it was that severe, and I'm very lucky now. I am a greatly blessed man. I never lost sight of the fact that I had a great family, I had amazing kids, I had good friends. I was still a part of a community that loved me and cared about me and was there to help when I needed it. I was very, very lucky. I have met a lot of other people in my work as a Tourette's advocate that were not as fortunate as I was to have so many people surrounding them that loved them and were willing to help. And yeah, I'm lucky. I appreciate that fact. I'm grateful for that. And that's one of the things that really helped keep me grounded when everything felt like it was just turning to garbage. And, you know, when you're home alone and you're shaking so bad that you can't get out of the bed and make it the 6 steps to the bathroom, and it feels like the whole world's going to end, and you've been suffering like this for 10 years and it's never going to quit and it's never going to go away. It can be soul crushing in that moment, but, you know, I knew I had plenty of stuff that I could look at and remind myself how lucky I was and how blessed I was. And that's what keeps me going on the worst of the worst days is just thinking about like now I have such an amazing, thoughtful, beautiful wife. Like, I have to be careful what I say around her, because if I say, like, "Oh man, that would be so cool. I always wanted one of those." Like, I can't just casually say that, or it'll be on its way to the house tomorrow. And I've learned that the hard way. Maybe it was cool and I wanted it as a kid, but I don't necessarily want it now. No, too late. You said you wanted it, and she got it for you because she's thoughtful and generous with her time and her heart and her spirit and her money, and never been around such kindness. And I thank God every day that I've got such a wonderful lady by my side now. And I think about things like that. I think about how great my kids are. I think about how lucky I am that they're all so healthy and things are going well for them. And I've got beautiful grandbabies and stuff. That'll keep you grateful right there for a long time. Focus on the positives and not the negatives. That's my way. And it manages to keep me grateful even in the worst of times. Because sometimes things suck. That's okay. It's gonna happen sometimes. Sometimes they suck for a really long time, but they don't suck forever. And even if they do, even if something's never gonna go away, they don't suck forever. Like, it might be bad at times, but there's also good times. Man, I have been rolling laughing and stuff with my kids with me in a wheelchair. And I'm telling you, man, God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good. Like, I spent so much time in a wheelchair at church and stuff, but I realized, man, kids love wheelchair rides, man. They could have one kid sitting on the footrest, one kid in my lap, one kid holding on the back of the wheelchair, and I'd be zipping around the church, man. And kids would be having a ball, and to the point they'd be disappointed if I could walk into church one day, which was just funny. And like, despite the fact that, I might not be able to see and maybe I can't walk without help, I could still play the drums, which was great. And it was my drum set, so I knew where everything was. It's not like I didn't need to see. I know where my drums are, and get somebody to help me get to the kit, and I'm good. And I got to count all of those blessings on my worst days when other people were just going on and on about, how they would give up and they couldn't take it. And I'm like, man, my life's good. I like things a lot better now for sure. But sometimes I kind of miss the wheelchair. I'll tell you the truth, man. There are a couple of cons lately that have been so big. Like, the floors are just gigantic, especially for a dude from Arkansas that doesn't usually get to places that big. Um, some of these places are huge, and I gotta walk, a mile or two across this building to wind my way around to find my spot in Artist Alley. And I catch myself sometimes thinking, man, I sure do miss that wheelchair right now. I'm glad I can walk. I'm glad I drove here and stuff. I couldn't drive for years. I'm grateful that things are good, but sometimes I miss that wheelchair. Oh yeah, man. Those kids are a part of my life forever. Yes, indeed. They're growing up on me, man. I don't know where these kids get off thinking they can grow up and start turning into men and women and stuff. I did not approve of any of this. Didn't nobody ask Uncle Fishy. A little put out. I feel like, I should have at least been consulted on the matter before they started growing up. And the thing is, like, I've been so involved now with so many kids for so long, from like we were, uh, whether it was I was a foster parent for a while, or involved in Cub Scouts with my kids, and led a den. That's what it was. I was den leader for a while, for my son's den, and was really involved in the Pinewood Derby races and stuff. And I was a carpenter, as one of the things that I just learned to do and love to do. I was a carpenter and had lots of tools, and we had a lot of like single moms and stuff in our den and in our pack. So I started doing these nights um before the big race, when everybody was working on their Pinewood Derby cars, and I would open up my house and my workshop and bring the kids over and help them help them figure out what design they wanted to do for their car, and then help teach them how to use whatever tools were safe for them to use. Because, like, while eventually my kids got to where they could use like the bandsaw and the jigsaw and things, and some of these other kids, no, they didn't have the attention and stuff for that, and they hadn't practiced enough. And I'm not letting them lose a finger, but they could use the coping saw and sandpaper and stuff, and we get their cars made. And it was a huge blessing to, like, especially the single moms that had no idea how to use tools. And after I saw a mom, drop her kid off with a painted block of wood, I was like, oh goodness, no. That's the whole part of this. The whole fun part of this is learning how to use the tools and stuff, and learning, is this something you're going to like? Maybe it's not. Not everybody's going to go on and, become a carpenter, but it spurred an interest when I was a kid, and I learned how to use this stuff, and, ended up doing fine cabinetry work and stuff, and in new home construction, and had some fun times and some cool jobs because of stuff I learned in Cub Scouts. So I definitely wanted to give them the opportunity to learn how to do it. And man, we had a ball. Sent some crazy looking cars out too, man. Them kids, you give them a paintbrush and a choice of whatever colors they want, and they are putting all the colors on the car. Oh man. Let me see. Let me get up. I was on the wrong screen. Which cons, he says. Uh I hit a lot of cons. I'm from the South, so if it's within driving distance, and I'll drive a long ways, uh, I'll hit it. Like, I mean, I went all the way to Maryland this year for a Small Press Expo. I will not do that again, because Small Press Expo would more aptly be named Zine Expo. And I love zines and I love mini comics and stuff, but like that's what they were focused on there. Nobody was coming there for action stories or sci-fi stories. They were coming there for, black and white, handmade, you know, stories about my favorite stick, or, my life as a trans woman, or whatever, whatever slice of life stuff people were doing. And it was awesome. I would have still loved to have driven to that con just to go to the con. It was an amazing show. And I love zines. Like I said, I love slice of life stuff. I love anything weird that's going to expose me to something I've never thought of before, or never, never understood before. I'm all about it. But they were not looking for, you know, stories about mutant cops trying to survive a corrupt system. They weren't looking for full color, standard size comic books. Like that wasn't what they were after. But you live and you learn. Uh, Usually had real good luck at the Memphis Comic Expo, but this year they changed the location and just killed it. Uh, I apparently ticked off one of the guys that promotes a lot of the local southern shows and didn't get into any of those. Oh man, I went to C2E2 this year. Absolutely, man. I think it was this year. Um oh yeah, I love Chicago. I've been up there a bunch. Like that's within driving distance to me. Um Over 16 hours is that's pushing. It's got to be something good. But yeah, go up to Chicago. Shoot, yeah. I'm I would like to. I was at C2E2 as a guest of the Heroic Awards and helped with interviews and stuff for the Heroic Awards and got to meet some friends and stuff up there. But I would love to show at C2E2, man. That was a great show. You in the Chicago area? 'Cause I dig Chicago, man. I used to go up north all the time back in the day. Back in the day. Yeah. I don't know how anybody founds anybody at C2E2, man. A friend of mine was up there, a TikTok friend of mine was there as a cosplayer, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll meet up while we're there." Man, it took the whole freaking con for us to finally end up getting to snap a picture together. The place is so freaking huge. And every time we were trying to meet up, she was like, "Okay, well, I'm back here at the cosplay center and, the cosplay corner for everybody." And I was like, "Okay." And so I start heading all the way across the con with my crippled butt. And I'm shuffling back there on my cane. And then I get back there. I'm like, "Okay, I'm at the cosplay corner. Where are you at?" And she's like, "Oh, I got called up front for a photo shoot with some other, cosplayers." And I'm like, "Oh, man, okay. I'll start heading that way." And then I get up front to the C2E2 logo where she was. And I'm like, "Where are you at?" She's like, "Oh, I got called over here for another photo shoot with some other cosplayers." And then it's like, "Oh, we're already back at the hotel now." I finally got a hold of her the last day and we got a picture together. And that was fun because I love watching her cosplay videos, man. She does such cool craftsmanship, and I love I love building things. I love making things. I love figuring out all the different ways to make stuff work, and she does such a beautiful job of stuff. But my absolute favorite part every time is that point towards the end of the video, like where she's made this awesome costume and she's been posing in it. She's been all serious and badass. And then there's that moment at the end where she just kind of gets that giggly smile because she's so excited about what she just made. And that point in anybody's cosplay video where you see that grin on their face, you see that sheer blind joy of like, "I did it." That that is dopamine gold for me. I freaking love seeing people just revel in what they did. I don't care if it's people freaking out because they rolled a natural 20 on, a role playing game. I don't care if it's people, just dying laughing and proud of themselves because they came back with a super witty comeback real fast. But man, that moment when you see that joy in somebody's face knowing they nailed it, I freaking love that, man. It's awesome. Sorry if I missed this. Working from home, a person called. Are you coming back to C2E2 this year? I would like to. Um, I'd have to get into C2E2. And part of that is I got to know ahead of time enough to sign up for it because I tend to miss a lot of the signups for things. Or like I won't realize they were taking signups until they're announcing that it's closed. I have that problem a lot for some reason. Uh, Pump out books real quick, organized, not so much. Yeah, it's my cross to bear. It comes with having a nervous system that works as crazy as mine, and I pump out lots of great ideas, but sometimes I miss things. But I would love to come back. I'd love to come out there. I got lots of friends out that way. Like John Avina is up there in the Chicagoland area. Uh, yeah, Henri Compton's up there in that area. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to come back up there again. Just gotta hit the deadline right and get it, and then getting into a show that size, because like a lot of those places, man, once they get so many people wanting to come in there, it's easier to just go with bringing in the people that you already know are gonna show up and fill up a table, and people are gonna come buy their stuff. It can be hard to get into a show like that when they don't know your stuff yet, or you're not attached to Marvel or DC or something, which I am oddly one of the guys that doesn't really care about that. I've never really been interested. I love Spider-Man, love Batman. It would absolutely be fun to work on it, but I wouldn't want to do more than like an arc. I couldn't see myself working on either of them full time. I wouldn't have the passion for it, man. I don't think I could sustain it. I've always wanted to do my own stuff. I always wanted to work in indie comics, and a lot of people are always like, "Well, why aren't you going higher, man? Why aren't you shooting to try and get in at Marvel?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm doing the books that I wanted to do. I'm doing the cool weird stuff, and I'm getting to do my own thing, which is what I always wanted to do." And not everybody can understand that. But that's what I dig, you know? Oh man, absolutely. And that's something that I try and tell everybody. It's like it does not matter how good you are. I've tried telling my son for a long time because he's a real talented artist. I was like, it doesn't matter how good you are, how skilled you are. You can just do it for fun. You could be one of the best artists in the world. That doesn't mean you have to make it your job. My son always kind of felt like he didn't really have a choice, because I was an artist and he's an artist, and like he worried sometimes about it becoming a job. Like one of my sons is a really talented musician, and he thought for a while about going to school, and get a degree so he could teach music and stuff and make some money while he tried to get his music off the ground and whatnot. And then he just realized at one point he didn't want to turn it into a job. And I was part of that for him because we were talking about it one day, and he asked me, like, how long has it been since you've just drawn something just for fun? And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, and it's been, at the time, it had been like 3 years since I had just drawn something just for fun. And he didn't want he didn't want music to get to that place. And I totally understand that. And I agreed with him. I was like, if that's if there's anything else that you would rather do and, leave it to be something that you do for fun, do that, man. Let it be fun. It should be fun no matter how we're doing it. Like, there are times there are times that my job gets frustrating. Like the other night, I was so tired and sleep deprived that as I was coloring a page for a client and I got down to the last panel, I was coloring in the characters in the last panel, and then all of a sudden I realized something was wrong with the main character, and I I got this sinking feeling and I zoomed out and I realized somewhere along the way as I was working all zoomed in on these bottom panels, my sleeve had accidentally bumped the delete button again on my laptop, and I had deleted all of the coloring on the main character in every panel across the entire page. And I wanted to scream and I wanted to throw my computer and I wanted to break my stylus. And, you know, I didn't. I calmly put everything down and closed the computer and I stopped for the night. I wanted to, I was in a panic because I just lost, an hour or two worth of work and I was going to have to redo it and I was exhausted and I hadn't slept all night. And in the moment, I wanted to scream and then hurriedly get back into it and try and force myself to redo the whole page. But I knew if I tried to force myself to do it then, that tired and that angry, I was going to end up making more stupid mistakes. And I was just going to end up costing myself more in the long run. And it was probably going to come out looking crappy anyway. So, like, there are times that doing it as a job is not fun. And that was a moment when it was not fun. Or like when I set my tablet down because the Amazon guy came to the door and rang the doorbell. So the dogs are freaking out. And I set my tablet down on the floor quickly as I got out of my recliner and went to go answer the door. And when I came back, my entire page of inks I was finished with was gone because apparently my chihuahua stepped on the keyboard and deleted the whole freaking page and must have stood on the delete key for a minute or something because I exhausted all of the undos I had on the computer and couldn't get back to before it was deleted. So I had to sit down and re ink the entire page that was finished already. Times like that, it's a frustrating job. The rest of the time, though, I'm sitting in my recliner in my official work issued PJs and I'm making laser blast sounds and I'm all like, "Ugh, ah, ugh," and I'm making faces and stuff as I'm drawing faces. I'm I'm living my childhood dream most of the time. It is work, but I love my work. It's better than digging a ditch or, making cabinets or anything else I've done. It's a job though. I have to get up every day and do it, and I work long hours. I wish I didn't work as long hours as I do. I wish I could change that part of it. But right now, until people go to gomrfish.com and hit that pre-launch button so they can be signed up to be notified when Greenzone issues 1 through 4 goes live on February 3rd, 2025 on Crankstopper. Until enough people do that and back the books enough, and I make enough money on my own stuff, I have to do my stuff and, crank out other people's stuff when I was just doing my own books, man, I mean, when I was just doing client work, I mean, right now I would have all of my jobs for next year pre-booked, money prepaid in PayPal. All I had to do was just do the jobs and pay myself. And it was nice. I could take a day off if I wanted and relax. Because ultimately, like, when I'm doing a book for a client, I make my page rate whether they are successful or not. It's a shame. I don't mean it to sound heartless because I want, like if you hire me to do a book for you, I want your book to be successful. And unlike a lot of people, I'll do whatever I can to help it be successful. I mean, I'll share stuff on social media. I will go on podcasts with you if you want and talk about the project. Uh, I I'll do whatever I can to be helpful on it. Uh, I want your book to be a success because a successful book for you means that you're going to hire me to do the next book, and that means that that's another successful book that I can show people. Hey, people like to buy the books I make. It's in everybody's best interest for a book I do with you to be successful. I want it to be, but ultimately I get paid either way. Like if you're a bad salesman or something, or you make a lousy looking uh, Kickstarter page or something, or you go off on a racist rant or something, I can't help that. That's not my responsibility. I can make a good looking book. That's the only part I can really handle. I want it to be successful, but I can't make it work if, you know, if there's some other factor that I can't control. It's I can only do my part well and turn in a good looking book. And I can't even like necessarily make the script good. I don't have control over those parts, but I want it to be successful, but I get paid either way. And that was kind of nice. Like I didn't have to be social media manager and the artist and the inker and the advertising branch of the company, and I wasn't responsible for uh shipping and receiving and placing the orders for books and all that stuff that I have to do now when I'm doing it for myself. It was a lot nicer just doing other people's books. But then I don't get to tell my stories. And like my story, Alice Lost in Wonderland, I've been working on that thing for 30 years, waiting to get that out. And I'm super excited that it's out now. And I'm super excited to do more issues of that. It's worth the stress of having to figure out how to do all this stuff on your own and how to be your own social media manager and how to do your own advertising and try and come up with social media posts that are going to get people interested to go to misterfish.com and sign up for that pre-launch page. I'm trying to get my mouse on the right screen. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Little Silver Phantom LX says my iPad updated and locked itself. Oh man, I had no lock before. Oh man. Oh dude. That ow. Oh. Let's all have a moment of silence for the artwork locked away on the iPad. Which probably happened to more than one iPad, I dare to say. Oh man. My heart breaks and my stomach aches. I can't imagine. Oh, I need a little coffee. That's the good stuff. Oh man. Oh, woe is me and woe is you. Goodness gracious. I've lost stuff, but man, if I lost the whole device, I would be up in Z Creek. Man, I'm I I obsessively hold on to files. It's a bit of an issue. I should probably be working on it with my shrink, but I obsessively hold on to files and back up stuff. And like, I've got so many old files for things nobody is ever going to want again, tucked away on CDs and DVDs that I burned, and multiple copies of it just to be safe. And nobody's ever going to want any of that. But I got it, by George. And uh, I'm I am obsessive about it. I am. And now these days, I've been using um, the solid, like, terabyte, 2 terabyte, whatever drives. And usually they work good, but then every once in a while, it'll just be like, oh yeah, we saved all those files. And I'm like, okay, good. And I can clear off the original, whatever that had all the stuff on it. And then it'll be like, oh, wait, those files? No, no, we didn't save any of those. And in one big backup that I did, I ended up losing like about 6 months worth of work. And it was all old work. Like, it was all books that had long since been published and stuff. So, like, it shouldn't be an issue, but still, for me, who obsessively holds on to everything, it it drove me nuts that I lost it. And those files are the ones people ask me about the most often. Those are the ones that clients are like, "Hey, you remember that book we did 3 years ago? Do you have those files without the lettering on them?" I'm like, "Nope, I lost it all. I told you already that I lost it." "Oh man, I didn't think you lost it all." "No, I told you I lost it all." I called Apple really upset. No way to unlock. Oh man. Oh, don't you even get me started, man. A while back, my Facebook got hacked, which, they hacked my Facebook and they caught me at just the right time. And I was stupid. And I gave them the code to do it, because I was in the middle of doing a whole bunch of stuff and I was setting up a Kickstarter with my publisher, and their intern was doing all this stuff setting it up, and I was getting done with working for the day and I was about to go over and eat dinner with my family, and the family's all sitting at the table waiting for me to get over there looking at me. And then I get this message on my phone say, "Hey, can you send me that code Facebook sent you real quick?" And I sent it to him, no problem, thinking it was the intern. If they hadn't have caught me at that moment, I never would have fell for it, but I fell for it. They got in there, they changed everything on my Facebook account, changed my password and my email and everything. And then they went and messaged everybody down my friends list, "Hey, can you send me 250 bucks real quick? I'm in a bind." I'm surprised how many people sent it. The lucky thing is it was all people that I work with regularly. So they sent it to my PayPal so I could turn around and send it back to them instead of sending it to the link that this guy was trying to get them to send to. And then they'd realize it was a scam, and then they'd start hitting me up trying to message me. And luckily, I don't think they got money from anybody that I couldn't return back quickly. But hacked my Facebook, took me 2 months to get back into my Facebook account, at which time they hacked my Instagram account, which was attached to it. And they hacked that Instagram account, and I spent a year trying to get that Instagram account back. There is no way to get your Instagram account back, because I finally got a hold of a person, an actual person at Instagram corporate offices and in a different department, who was really freaking out that I was talking to them because they didn't want to get fired for talking to somebody about something that they weren't supposed to be talking about. Like, it wasn't what they were hired to talk about. But I wouldn't leave and told them I was just going to keep calling back until they gave me an answer. And they told me they fired all of the human beings that worked in the department to help you get your account back because they made really clear instructions on the internet so how you could fix it yourself. But those instructions go in a loop and they don't work if you've been hacked. Like their instructions are, "Oh, you've been hacked? Then all you need to do is try and log in and say you want to reset your password and we'll email you a key." Oh, your email has been changed by a hacker? Oh, no problem. All you need to do is log into your account and go change the email. Oh, you can't log into your account? Okay, all you need to do is have us email you a key so you can change your password. Oh, you can't get into your email because it's been hacked? Well, then go into your account and change your email. It doesn't work if they've changed your email and your account and you can't get in to do that. But I guess nobody caught that before they fired all the humans, and now there's just no way to change it. And I ended up having to make a new Instagram account and rebuild it up from scratch. And I finally had to detach that other email account from all my meta business stuff. And it's just sitting there dead and empty, doing nothing as a big distraction. And it drives me nuts that there's no way to fix it because they don't have they don't have access to do stuff correctly. They don't have nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody's thinking things through before they make giant major changes. It drives me nuts. I cannot stand being stuck talking to computers and stuff when I should be, I should be able to talk to a human being and get an actual answer on this. It, oh, see, that makes me nervous because I was just looking at an iPad. Honestly, I've got to upgrade my system soon. My Microsoft Surface Pro I've been working on is on its last legs because I work on such big files for such long hours and it's had enough. It's tired. It wants to go home, Forrest. And and I understand. I've put it through the ringer, but I need to upgrade, and I was looking at getting another one, and then a friend of mine was suggesting an iPad, and I looked because for the longest time, to get the same kind of power in an iPad would be 3 times as much as it would be in a PC product. But now all of a sudden, I can get the same thing for $100 more. But if it's gonna do something like that, nah. Yeah, if that's even a possibility, I don't wanna fool with that nonsense. Had someone call in once saying, "Wow, real person." Yeah. It's shocking when you get a real person anymore. What really killed me were those computers that would answer the phone, and they would talk so much like a human, but then couldn't answer any questions that weren't already recorded on their little programming and stuff. And, I it would drive me nuts. Oh god, I don't like those things. Anyway, we've been going for hour 18 minutes, almost an hour, 20 minutes, but I'm going to have to get off of here because I got a meeting coming up and I need to chit chat about the projects that are on the horizon for 2025. New books of my own coming out, new projects that we're going to be pitching up to bigger publishers, projects that I'm going to be working on with other creators and other publishers and stuff, the client work that I'm going to be doing this year. And so I got a big meeting about that, and I need to get over and talk about it. And also talk about what we're going to be doing with the Mr. Fish Comics Patreon in 2025. If you're not signed up, you ought to go my check out my newsletter, man. There's a link in my bio, usually in most places. It's definitely in the link on my TikTok, Mr. Fish Comics, at the top of my link tree. There's a link to sign up for the newsletter. You'll get two free comics. One of them is a digital copy of Greenzone Issue 1. So you can check out the book for free for signing up for the newsletter. And every week, or not every week, every month, the newsletter comes out and it has all the stuff that I'm going to be working on that month. It has new assets and stuff for Clip Studio, new brushes, new whatever that you can use for fun and profit. I'm trying to make it as helpful as I can to new creators, give all the wisdom advice of things that I've picked up and learned over the years. I mean, I've been a working artist since junior high. So I know a thing or two. I've learned a few things over the years. And I try and put as much helpful advice and stuff in the newsletter. Make it something people really want to open, other than, hey, check out my new book launching February 3rd, 2025 on Crankstopper. Like, it's not just that. It's, I want it to be something cool. I want it to be fun. Man, like I used to love getting those um, graphic design magazines and stuff, and illustration magazines that would have a little CD in the back, and it'd have all kinds of brushes and templates and things that you could download for free. And oh man, I loved that stuff. I didn't use half of it, but man, it was awesome to have it. And I want my newsletter to be cool like that. Something people are looking forward to. So check that out. You'll get two free comics, digital comics in the process. So check that out, and I will see you next time. Absolutely. Hope to see you around next time. And stay up to date. Hit that subscribe and notify button so you don't miss out, man. I will see y'all later. Let me get down here and run the credits for the thank yous for everybody that's supported on the Patreon. Love y'all.